Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Debrief over here on Turn Left. I am Sneaker. I'm back, and I'm excited to chat to you all tonight. We are joined by the wonderful Curtis Daly and friend of the show, Davey Moo, for tonight's show. Hello, both.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello. That's quite a
Fantastic.
subdued sort of
Hello.
Hello. Let's go more northern.
I always feel like you guys should do there should be some sort of tagline from each of you when I bring someone new on. Like you should have a little catchphrase that you say.
Don't threaten me with a good time. I'm a fan of a good tagline. I'll think of something.
What catchphrase could I have though? That's something that's suitable for pre-watershed content.
Never mind. Never mind then. No, I was going to swear.
Immediately ruled out, yeah.
It was the first one that I thought was
you can
swear
swear.
words. We can, and we shall. But
bugger.
But
that's like when your sister gives you permission to swear for the first time, and you're like, testicles.
I remember when I was like 10 or 11. I was at under 12s football
completely gone
club,
off track,
and I said the word balls, and he had a go at me. He's like, "You can't say that,
Balls.
balls." I was like, "I meant footballs. Look, there's balls everywhere."
You shouldn't have been pointing at other people's testicles though when you said it. Probably. Anyway.
Okay.
On to the show. Politics? Yeah, we've got plenty of politics to talk about. All apologies. Don't let any of what's just happened now colour your judgment of the show. We've got a few different stories that we want to talk about. The budget came out earlier in the week. I think that was covered in quite a lot of detail yesterday. Was it, Curtis? Friday even on the show.
We've had multiple shows on the budget. We had a little bit with Samuel K. Yeah, a little bit with Samuel K. with me. We also had Helena with Callum on Wednesday. So, but we can still talk about the budget because it's a big thing and it's going to be analysed for the next couple of days anyway. So,
yeah,
if you want to talk about the budget, we can talk about that budget.
I mean, I was going to say if Helena's covered it with you guys, then I will be adding very little to the conversation. I mean, what value do I have to add on top of that?
Why ask a dog to comment on what an actual human being has already covered? This doesn't make sense, does it?
You are being too harsh on yourself.
Well, we can talk about it a little bit, but I think the stories that we wanted to cover in a lot of detail tonight, obviously Kemi Badenoch being brought on as being chosen as the new Conservative Party leader. That happened on Friday evening, Saturday morning. Very tired this week. But we will talk through that and a little bit of the reactions that we've seen already. We're then also going to talk about the Dispatch's report on the royal family. Bunch of fucking bastards. And everything that... yeah, it's coloured my judgment on them. But we'll be talking about a little bit of that, the amount that they've been claiming and charging the NHS, police, justice-assisted prisons, it's essentially every area that they could be arseholes about, they have been arseholes about. So we'll go into that. And then we are also going to talk a little bit about Elon Musk just still doing what he's doing. We wanted to bring in a part of the show about twat of the week, twunt of the week, whatever you want to call it. Not bugger of the week, because that sounds charged, but something along those lines. But that'll just probably be about half an hour of us running through his latest bullshit ahead of the election. Before we get into it, just as a reminder, thank you to everyone who's joining us tonight. Thank you for everyone in the chat, all of our subscribers, all of our YouTube members and supporters over on Patreon. If you do want to support us more in growing the channel, if you want to help us grow a little bit, if you want to encourage independent media, left-wing media, you can support us over at turnleftmedia.co.uk/support, where you can become a patron, you can make a one-off donation. There's all sorts of options there. But if you can't do that, we'll love you anyway, and we appreciate you joining us. Guys, let's talk about Kemi Badenoch first. So Kemi was, elected, outpaced Robert Jenrick. However, we have seen already, I think in the space of 24 hours, a lot of critical mainstream media coverage of her. There's been the unearthing of it's in quotes, but I think it just was a rape joke. on social media from back in the day. We've also seen Sky News talking about the fact that she's going to be looking over her shoulder. Apparently, some of the further right members of the Tory party have been kind of in the shadows saying, support her for now, but not for long. And then also, obviously, we've immediately seen this rhetoric of Kemi's combative past and her combative nature, which plays into a lot of the sort of misogynoir that we've grown used to, I think, over the last few years. But obviously, she beat out Jenrick. I don't know, Curtis, I think you mentioned, I was just glad that Robert Jenrick was having a bad day. But this was kind of the kind of stats that came through for her in terms of her win. Beth Rigby, writing for Sky News, said her win wasn't emphatic. It was the closest result of any Tory leadership race ever. She got 56.5% of the vote against Jenrick's 43.5%, and the turnout was 72.8%. But she also won on fewer votes than Rishi Sunak lost to Liz Truss, who got 57% of the vote. This matters because it highlights the job Badenoch has on her hands to unify the party. And I think there was one more quote from here that I wanted to bring up. Or not. Yeah, there it is. Yes, this was the Sir John Hayes, Jenrick backer, influential right winger. Imagine being a Jenrick backer. Imagine that being the description that you get. Told Sky News after the vote, colleagues should get behind Badenoch for the time being. So, Mobius, you've mentioned in the chat here, theories, thoughts. They'll use her for critiquing and slandering foreign folk, and then they'll discard her like a dirty tissue. Curtis and Davey, I feel like we've seen this sort of thing before in the Tory leadership. What are you thinking?
I mean, in terms of, like you said, I think the press, I was going to say the press need to be careful and toe the line when it comes to misogynoir, but the press is literally built out of misogynoir, so that's coming. One thing I will just say is I think it would have been really funny if it was 52-48, just so that we could be like, is that a result that's not emphatic, is it? But, you get what you pay for.
I feel like if that was the case, Led by Donkeys would have made a big billboard of.
They'd have done something with it.
They would have done something with it. Anything but attacking Labour. Sorry, we're talking about something different now, aren't we?
Just straight in.
Yeah.
Please,
I think with Badenoch, like it was obvious that she was going to win, and I'm not surprised. I think that she exemplifies everything that they've become now. She is exactly what they are, which is this sort of culture war obsessed, like just like no issues, only minorities, and so I'm glad that she's won, because I said this to someone this weekend. I'm kind of excited for her to stand at the dispatch box and talk to Keir Starmer about like woke jihadis and like it's like pick a lane, Kemi. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm not surprised at all by the result. She is exactly what they've become, which is irrelevant and obsessed with culture war. So
yeah,
I think you had two paths there. You had Kemi Badenoch, that represents the future of right-wing politics, which is leaning into culture wars, and that's it. And Robert Jenrick was the British Empire past. And what I'm alluding to here is there was a bit of a discussion in the media about giving reparations for the British Empire, something we should do, at least have a conversation about it. And Robert Jenrick made an op-ed in the Daily Mail saying, we shouldn't give reparations. In fact, the colonized countries that we colonized should be thanking us. It's pretty remarkable, pretty disgusting. So he's like the really old Tory from the past, the empire guy, and Kemi Badenoch is leaning into culture wars. Obviously, in policy, they don't really disagree, and Kemi probably thinks the same. But I think that's where their two pitches were. I think Jenrick is probably, on balance, slightly worse than Kemi, but there's almost no point discussing who's worse, because these are two awful candidates created from a very, very cultural heavy Conservative Party.
You know what I do think is kind of typical is it feels like Robert Jenrick's really been trying to do the culture wars in the last few weeks, like especially as the contest got like hotter and hotter. He's just started saying like, any shit to try and get out there and be like, I'm also kind of crazy. I say crazy stuff all the time as well.
He has
But
to look the swag to do it, though.
When it comes to driving hatred and culture wars, and it's not necessarily something you should aspire to be very good at, but I do think we have once again got a case of a black woman who is overqualified having to go up against a mid-level white guy who can't do culture wars as well as her. Like, she's better at it. And if that's what they want from it, she's gonna win. Like, of course she was gonna win, because Robert Jenrick has, like, I don't know, he looks like an overgrown baby in the way that a lot of those old guys do. It kind of reminds you of the Michael Gove days. I was amazed that Robert Jenrick not amazed that he got as far as he did, because every time there's a Tory leadership contest, it's like choosing your favorite STI. But it's fascinating that he attempted to play into that same stuff, and she delivers it better.
Well, I think that's
the outcome of that is horrendous.
I think that's what the contest came down to. There's a lack of policy there. I'm pretty sure Kemi Badenoch said, there's no time for policy right now. We need to talk about vibes, which in a way she kind of said the quiet part out loud. It's all about vibes. That's what the US election is about. Nothing to do with policy. And Kemi Badenoch is more comfortable in her own skin when talking about things. She's better with the public. She's more better charisma. At speaking. Jenrick is he's awkward. He's wooden. And I think people really, at the end of the day, being a good communicator in politics is key. Yeah. Even if you were to try and put yourself in the shoes of a Conservative member, God forbid, you may even agree with a lot of policies from Jenrick, even though we've just said that
Davey both went
anyway.
Let's have a thought experiment.
You're really expensive shoes that we can't afford. I think a lot of people chose Kemi because they think she's possibly effective at taking on Keir Starmer, which isn't a difficult task. And this is what does worry me a little bit, is that obviously Kemi's views, her ideology is batshit crazy. Okay, but she could be quite successful in attacking Keir Starmer, because Keir Starmer is also a wooden, a charisma.
Oh my god! Character. Can you imagine Jenrick and Keir?
What?
Like yogurt fight. Yeah, yogurt fight part 2.
Is it Bill and Ben?
That was kind of cute and entertaining. This would be just depressing.
Yeah.
I thought you meant cute, like sexy. Not like those cute.
Whose right should we take away today?
Christ.
Just to say thank you very much, Scottish Soul, for the 5 turn left memberships. Very, very grateful for that. I think James already taken one, which is wonderful.
And James Ward as well.
James Ward's been gifted a membership.
Oh,
thank you for taking that gift. And Zed, fantastic. Davey, question for you. Charlotte's dropped in the chat here. Do we think that Kemi will last the average 6 months as a leader for the Tories, or longer, shorter? We talked about this a little bit before the show.
I think she's going to last a little while, but she's not going to make it to the next election, because I just feel like, well, to be fair, I say this, I'm never going to be 100% confident in anything I say about these things, because like, these people are completely misaligned with the way that I think about things, which is, like, sane and normal. So maybe she will, see them through to the next election, but I think that she's a vehicle for steering them further right. Ultimately, the fact that they've chosen her, the fact that it got the way that it did, tells you just how little the Tories have learned, in terms of they just got beaten by a Labour that had moderated to a softer right position than them. Okay, I'm not talking about whether Labour's left or right. I have my opinions on that, but they got outflanked by someone to the left.
Yeah,
and they were like, "Well, what should we do now? I've got an idea. Why don't we go even further to the right and change the idea for right?" Like, what are you doing?
Which member of the Tory party was that? Was that the?
It sounds about
that was the embodiment over all of the Tories.
Yeah,
you smash the Conservative Party together. It's like if you put in the Conservative Party in AI.
Yeah, it sounded like the guy from Kidsgrove who lost his job, the teacher, the one who lost his spot and was like, I don't know what to do.
To be fair, I was actually going for a loose impression of the Churchill dog from The Others. Oh no!
Fantastic.
And if you're too young to remember that, get out.
It was, yeah. I mean, I think to me it feels like the same, with Suella, when they were like, yeah, you be the one who pushes all the culture wars, and then once she got to a certain point, they were like, oh, she's doing all these culture wars and it's terrible. we're going to have to get rid of her, kick her to the curb. Same with Priti Patel. It feels as though they do have a habit of pushing someone into the limelight who's not a white guy to kind of hold the fort for a little bit. And then once they feel like they've actually got a chance of winning, she's going to immediately be kind of completely undermined. Because, I mean, looking at Curtis, I was scrapping in your Twitter comments last night. That's the only reason I go on Twitter, by the way, is to scrap on people giving Curtis shit. But the amount of people who, like, the Tories are racist. There are so many Tories and Conservative Party supporters who are angry openly about the fact that they've got a black leader now, a black female leader.
Here's a question for you. Sorry to interject, but here's a question. Do you reckon Frank Kester will be donating now that Kemi's leader?
That'll be
I
interesting.
like that Kemi. She makes you like all black women, not like that Diane Abbott.
It makes me want to shoot them all.
And it'd be his anti-racist arc. He'd be like, I'm not a racist. I've given money to a black woman.
That's what I mean. I reckon
actually it's you lefties that are the real racists.
You're the real racist. I
love that one.
Yeah.
The reverse racism is my favorite card to play.
If you really think about it, you guys are racist because you're not uncritically backing a black woman with the ideas of an absolute moron.
No.
Well, I that's a good point you made, and I feel like we could probably discuss a slightly different angle. Which
what
is
obviously it?
Well, James Cleverly came out and he I sort of agree with him where he attacks Labour for being pale, male, and stale, right? Which at first I thought was quite funny because he says the Labour are obsessed with identity politics, and then he goes and literally does identity politics.
When did he get so sassy, James Cleverly?
James
Cleverly's never come out with anything that sassy in his life.
In fairness, though, like I love it when the right do this because I remember when Darren Grimes did this thing a little while ago where he was like, "Oh, the left is obsessed with identity politics," and as a northern working class gay man, I think it's disgusting. And I'm like,
I can tell you right now, the political right are obsessed with identity politics. I mean, that's their entire politics. All they talk about is they're sick of the wokes, sick of the immigrants, sick of the queers, sick of the gays, sick of the blacks, sick of the browns. That's all their politics is. So everything they do is just pure projection. And of course, loads of people have jumped on James Cleverly and said, why are you doing this sort of identity politics? But
don't point out the white people.
Well, I
only point out the not white people.
Unironically, I've seen people say, with big accounts, by the way, say, "Oh, is it really bad to be white now?" I'm like, okay, right, well, this is Twitter for you. But obviously, though, that does beg the question, and he is slightly right here. I'll give him a little bit of credit that Labour Party has only ever had a white man as leader.
And there were 7 people up for Labour leadership with Keir Starmer, and 6 of them were women.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a Guardian piece who backed
Yogurt Boy.
I can't remember who wrote the Guardian piece, but they said we should back Keir Starmer over Rebecca Long Bailey. That is the feminist vote. Obviously, Guardian shitlibs. They wanted Keir Starmer based on the fact that he's an establishment hack, and the Guardian is now an establishment hack newspaper. But what's really interesting is the Labour Party are trying to change the leadership rules. They already changed it a little bit by increasing the threshold to get on the ballot. And when you do that, that disproportionately affects women and MPs of colour. Mm-hmm. So when they do their virtue signalling, when you've got Keir Starmer taking a knee with Angela Rayner, and that, you remember that picture in 2020 in the office, that means nothing either, because they don't want to have a woman or a black man or black woman as leader unless they conform to the very niche right-wing politics. Yeah. So that is a criticism that James Cleverly is right. Labour have been pretty pale, male, and stale, but there's a caveat here, which I'll go into in a minute, which is liberal identity politics. But he is kind of right, though. I mean, it's hard to, especially when it comes to the narrative that the Conservatives are more of a racist party than the Labour Party, and Labour stands up for minorities, yada, yada, yada. But it's hard to convey that message when they've only had white men as leader.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, the Labour Party is as, like, I was reading about all the stuff with Diane Abbott when she was first standing for MP, and there was, like, the constant belief that, like, black MPs wouldn't get the vote. There's huge amounts of racism, misogyny, misogynoir across both of those parts. And to me, it feels like a class issue due to the fact that like a huge amount of politicians and MPs who are like in the in group across any party went to university together, went to private schools together. It all kind of ties into that same sort of elitism thing. But it is, yeah, I think James Cleverly's got a point, to be honest. He's right on that. But at the same time, we know that he's using it for evil.
Absolutely, yeah. He's not concerned about the lack of representation, is he?
No.
And people kick off about this because he's obviously a person of color, and obviously we need to get into this discussion in a minute, which is that like, and we should bring up Dawn Butler. When you criticize a person of color, they're like, well, hold on a second, how can you call a person of color racist? Whatever, that makes no sense. They can be, by the way.
David, what were you going to say?
It's just the big thing is, the second you acknowledge, like, you can celebrate milestones and stuff like that. Kemi Badenoch is the first Black woman to lead a major political party. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in terms of, it'd be great if she wasn't evil. But, like, the problem is the Tories consistently during kind of, like, I think particularly they did it a lot last year. They were constantly doing this thing of like, look at us though, we're so diverse. Look how diverse we're so diverse. Like, it's great how diverse we are. And I'm like, but you guys constantly harping on about that devalues it. It shouldn't be we've become like, the coat of many colors because we think it looks good. It should be because you're there on merit, and constantly drawing on this thing lessens it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of if you acknowledge it, it becomes less powerful, because the whole point is that that's what Britain looks like. Britain is full of people that are different colours and different sexualities and gender identities and blah, blah, blah. And the second you're like, well, actually, we fulfilled our quota, I'm like, again, like, it goes back to who's harping on about freaking identity politics now?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, it ties into I guess, like, it's a tricky one, because I do feel that, like, the representation part is super, super important. But at the same time, we fully understand how the Tories have weaponized POC politicians over the last few years in particular to be like, look, it's not bad. But the Labour Party is very racist. And like, if you think about all of the MPs that they have devalued, disparaged, shat on really in the last year or so, even since the election, it's like, you've got Zara Sultana, you've got Dawn Butler, you've got Diane Abbott, you've got like Nadia Whittome, who was told that like she wouldn't get funding for her domestic abuse work that she was doing if she didn't back a certain vote. Like, it's always the POC politicians in the Labour Party that seem to get the brunt of abuse, and I think it is super apparent. Like, I think on the ground, like, looking at it from a broader general public perspective, if the Labour Party want to stay away from those accusations, stop being awful to all of your POC MPs, right?
Yeah.
If you ask me about, I mean, to slightly disagree with David on the fact that Kemi's the first Black Tory leader, to me that means absolutely nothing. I
thought you were disagreeing with the fact that she was. I was like, I mean, she was.
That is like, true.
Have I?
But it's like
Margaret Thatcher was 125th.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Don't even.
We should all do DNA tests. That'd be interesting. When Rishi Sunak became prime minister without an election, people were saying, "Oh, it's historic, the first brown PM." And some people are saying that now you've got people on the Labour side, you've got Keir Starmer saying this is wonderful. I don't give a fuck. I don't care that she's Black, right? I'm a person of colour. Do you think I care? I don't care, because at the end of the day, it's the ideology and policies that matter. That's it. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a person of colour, but you're going to enact fascist or white supremacist politics or classist politics. So
you mentioned DNA tests. Do you reckon it would be like?
I see the Liberals there. They go, politics aside, right? Politics aside, you do have to respect that. You do have to. It's wonderful. It doesn't mean shit. It's like, have you not learned your lesson from Obama? Right? That was genuinely exciting at the time, because it was like, oh my God, the first Black president. But what happened with Obama? I mean, his policies were very anti-Black. Talk about police violence. Talk about locking up like those who are smoking weed or possessions of weed disproportionately affected people of color in poorer communities. He didn't do anything about that. Right, he made it worse. And of course, when it comes to his foreign policy, the guy loved his drone and his drone killings. So I do get sick of that idea. It's like, you know, we politics aside, you can't separate that. No, politics not aside. Bring politics back to it.
Well, I mean,
that's why I supported Jeremy Corbyn, an old white man, because he had some good politics. Right? I'd take him over Kemi Badenoch any day.
But I do think it's like, obviously it's not politics aside. I think Mobius has put a really good comment in the chat here on it's not the same as, obviously, like white women, different situation, but like the idea, like Margaret Thatcher being the first female prime minister, she became female prime minister at a point in time where she couldn't even go up like the staircase at the Tory headquarters club because it was for men only. And it is this kind of like ladder pulling scenario of like, you get people into these positions. It's the same as like, what's his face? Is it Darren? What's his name? The guy who got Dan Wootton. Like, there's all of these people who are like, the work that has been done for them to ever be able to get into that kind of position, and then they're immediately going to pull the ladder up and prevent other people from being able to do the same. And but you can see how, from a broader public perspective, it feels
Absolutely.
how it plays. It will play successfully if Labour keep being massive racists.
Oh, I completely understand. And that's what they're doing so bad at the optics game, which is why what James cleverly said, whilst his intentions are, not pure, he probably represents nefarious. He represents a view that could be an effective narrative that, look at Labour, they've only ever elected white men. They must have a problem, because then that's where
they do.
Well, they do, and that's the thing. It's absolutely true. They do have a problem with women. They do have a problem with specifically women of color. Absolutely, especially if they're on the left, almost exclusively on the left. But that's still racist and sexist in and of itself. That you must subscribe to a certain kind of politics to be treated fairly. So yeah, again, James is kind of right about that. But then that feeds into the whole so it's the left who are the real racist and sexist, and the right who aren't. One, the Labour Party are not left wing. I think we all know that. And secondly, that's just not true. But of course, the politics of Keir Starmer doesn't help that narrative by only electing white men. You're feeding into this narrative that the right are setting forth toward the country.
I think the big thing is, like, I can understand minorities wanting to celebrate seeing someone that looks like them in a position. And I get that. I get the optics of that and everything. But it's like, like I talk about him a lot because I fucking hate his guts. Wes Streeting's a gay guy. I couldn't give a fuck. I don't care that he's gay. He's like an internally homophobic arsehole as far as I'm concerned. But also the fact that our health secretary is gay. Oh, that's great. He's also fucking ruining the NHS, and he's a massive transphobic piece of shit. So it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's not something to celebrate. If anything, I made what I thought was quite an eloquent video about this last week. It's worse in some ways. I'm going to toot my own horn, but like, it really annoys me that he is someone that understands what it's like to be minoritized by a society that like does not want to accept us. And he's like, well, I got mine. Time to shit on the next people. And I'm like, you are awful, So I think there's nuance that has to be there. Like we can say like, okay, you're allowed to be like, wow, like new boundaries are being broken. But if those boundaries are being broken by someone who's just going to fuck everything up, it's not exactly a win for the Bucks, is it? Oh my God, Kemi Badenoch is the first black female leader of the Tories, and she also hates literally every single living human being. So not exactly.
I do like this comment here though from Double D.
I mean, she's going to be pushing that. Continuing on with that vehicle, but in the same way Suella did, and the same way Pretty did.
Because I feel like what they're trying to do here is to say, see, even people of colour are sick of immigrants and refugees. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's trying to sort of bat away the racism allegation. Because if only white people say it, then it's like, well, you're just saying that because you're racist. It was not actually, because we have a black person who says that immigration is too high and the boats are a problem. See, that just shows how far we've gone.
It's by the LGB with the T people. Sorry, like you go.
Sorry. my turn. I do think it's important. Like that. I don't think that's why she was elected by the leadership of the Tories. Like I think it is because she would be objectively more qualified and better at it than Robert Jenrick. I think what we're already seeing though, and what will happen over the next few months, like Liz Truss was an absolute fool. She tanked our whole economy in the space of like 5 days. But the level of abuse and misogyny that you see in like being a female leader of a right-wing party, there's only so far that you can cheat your way within a group that fundamentally doesn't respect or care about you, and also as part of a wider society that doesn't respect or care about you. And I think it'll be like it's the same thing as when David Tennant said that she should be shot or whatever. Like that was like there's a lot like there's
I don't think
I don't like Kemi. He did say he said that, and then he started, and then he took it back immediately. But
I thought he said she should shut up.
no, he swapped. He said that one first, and then the other one, and then a
Oh,
lot
okay.
of people were like, "Yeah, haha."
Mm.
There is a level like people don't like Boris Johnson. People hated Boris Johnson. People said a lot of negative things about Boris Johnson. There's a different element to it when it comes to speaking about female leaders, and there's going to be a whole other element to it now for Kemi. The misogynoir that is going to come out of it is going to be absolutely horrifying, and it feels like it always comes out this way in the end. Like it ends up like there's only so far that people, like anyone who's not a white guy, can make it as leaders of these parties. So I think it's going to be interesting though to see how the criticism of Kemi is navigated, particularly by like our pals on the left, see how people manage it, because there is an element of like glee and like stupid woman that comes out when people are criticizing female right-wing leaders. And I know this isn't like she's right-wing political leader either way, she's not going to be great, but it is a time when I think true colors kind of show from people in terms of how intersectional they actually are, because the criticism does feel very, very different.
I think as well, though, it's not just about in that moment making a criticism that's wrong. Obviously, we all committed to doing the reading and, everything like that in 2020. How many people have done the reading? It's about the notes that you get when you fuck up. And this is what really bugs me. If you say something and it taps into a really bad stereotype, then take your notes. You are allowed to say, well, completely, and I get your point there. This is what I meant, and you can clarify. But don't just immediately jump to the like, well, no, it's not what I'm saying. Like just at least listen and entertain the idea that you might want to just be more careful with your language, because it's about splash damage. If you say something bad about Kemi Badenoch, I don't give a shit if it hurts her feelings. I think she's a fucking awful human being. I've heard the things that she said. I've heard the policies that she likes. I've seen the things that she's backed as a Tory. But when you say something that taps into a harmful stereotype about black women, it hurts all the black women that hear it. And then they've got to go, could you not do that actually, though? Because that taps into this. And then they get people being like, oh okay. Oh, so I've hurt your feelings now. Oh, well, I was actually talking about Kemi Badenoch, but let's just, and it's like, it's so demeaning to have to be like, just a crumb of please don't tap into these really harmful stereotypes, please. It's like you said, this is the true test of, are you truly intersectional, or did you read, like Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, and go, that's it, completed it, mate.
Did it now.
Yeah.
Got my ally card. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like someone's mentioned in the chat, like, I don't think that David Tennant wished harm or anything, but there was so much like celebration for fundamentally a very, very wealthy white guy saying that a black woman shouldn't exist. And then there were people, but even though he took it back in the moment and said, I didn't mean that, I meant it this way, because he realized how bad it sounded. There was still a bunch of people who, until then, I considered to be sort of progressive pals in this sort of space, commenting on black women's videos about it, saying like, no, but he didn't mean it actually. So have you considered that actually he's a good guy? Like, not listening to black women who are saying this is not some, like, we don't want to hear you like wishing death on a black leader is not okay. Like in the like, and especially when there's a double standard of like, would he have said that in the same context? Like when you've got people actually owning up and saying I shouldn't have said that, still going on to defend it and being like, no, he didn't mean it that way. It's very, very patronizing. So it'll be interesting to see those dynamics, I think, play out over the next few months as well.
Someone obviously mentioned Dawn Butler. I've actually, because there's been a lot of pushback against her to what she said, and I want to read out the tweet.
Yeah.
Which I actually think optically poor, but her argument, if I'm honest, is correct. So she tweeted, today the most prominent member of white supremacy's black collaborator class in Britain is likely to be made leader of the Conservative Party. Here are some handy tips for surviving the immediate surge of Badenochism, i.e. white supremacy and blackface. Now, obviously, you know, everyone's going to be, well, everyone did shit their pants over it. There's been calls for Keir Starmer to remove the whip. And again, optically, it's not a good look, but technically she's not wrong. And also, we've got to remember, this is another black woman saying this. It's not a white guy saying it. So she's not wrong, is she? Her argument is correct, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but I do think Keir's taken away the whip from people for pretty much anything these days, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think he's
damned if you do, he's damned if you do, he's damned if he doesn't. Because if he doesn't take it away, then people will be like, oh, so you can just say these things. And if he does, then people will be like, oh, okay, well, that's like
very male, pale, and stale of you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I feel like it's another thing that this self-fulfilling prophecy of Labour being that way. They're not going to know how to navigate it. The Labour's comms about most things are shite, but about this stuff in particular, it's just embarrassing. Like, it's embarrassing to watch them. The whole thing. How many was it? 44 times. Diane stood up.
Yes, for her own abuse in
slandered.
Parliament.
She'd been slandered, and someone had said, "I wish that she would get shot, and I wish I hate all black women." And she didn't even get to fucking speak.
Yeah.
And that was because of the speaker, who, guess which party he belongs to, and also because Keir Starmer at no point was like, maybe we should listen to the person it was about. But he was very happy to send out a fucking email saying, like,
exactly.
Oh, I would very much like to fundraise off the back of this thing.
Arsehole.
I love
and I think the speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, is a disgraceful person. I hate him because it's not just that, but it also pretty much engaging in corrupt practices, siding with the Labour Party when it came to the ceasefire motion, which was on the SNP's opposition day. It was their motion, and he wouldn't allow that to be read out, but only Labour's one. He's an arsehole. Of course, ignoring Diane Abbott on her own abuse. In which she spoke to Keir Starmer afterwards. So, is there anything I can do? She's like, yeah, you can give me the whip back. And he sort of went,
I don't know if I can do that.
I don't understand. I'm afraid I won't be able to.
I don't know why. Whenever I do my Keir Starmer impression,
what's that, like small beam?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm very sorry. I can't do it for you, Diane, but I can look very sad at the same time.
Let me be clear. And when I say that, I'm not going to be very clear.
Mr. Speaker.
I don't. Sausages.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
Release the sausages. I have ironclad support for Diane Abbott. Okay. Well, there's that. So shall we have a quick jump into the next topic? When we've drifted into the Starmer impression territory, I feel like we need to pull ourselves back for a brief moment. So let's jump into next topic: royal family, bunch of bastards. So Channel 4's Dispatches has shared a report talking about the sheer volume of cash that the royal family are making off of public sector services, landlords, rentals, basically anything that they could get their fingers into. King Charles's big sausage fingers, they are doing so. I think the total figure was over sort of 50 million that's being made from these different services. We've pulled together a few of them here. So bringing in 1.5 million a year in rent, which equates to 37.5 million over 25 years for HMP Dartmoor, which is an empty prison now due to the high levels of radon gas. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but doesn't sound great. So unoccupied prison that they are benefiting off of. There are schools that are paying the duchy? Should have checked this before I started. Duchy? The douchey are too childish. I'm too childish for this. They are paying more than £600,000 in rent over the lifetime of their leases. They are earning 11.4 million from a 15-year lease on a warehouse to Guy's and St Thomas NHS Trust for their ambulance fleet. They've also charged the Navy more than 1 million since 2004 to use jetties and warships on the Cornish coastline. On top of this, there was more information around the kind of green credentials of the royal family, which is on our next page. There we are. So last year, the king got a lot of kind of positive PR around asking for the profits from £1 billion a year Crown Estate wind farm deal to be used for the wider public good. However, the investigation also found that Charles would make at least 28 million from wind farms because of a feudal right to charge for cables crossing land that belongs to the Duchy of Lancaster, which sounds like something out of Monty Python. And then on top of this, there was also further information about their properties that they are leasing and loaning, of which 14% of those leased by the Duchy of Cornwall and 13% by the Duchy of Lancaster have a performance rating of F or G, despite the fact that it's literally against the law for landlords to be renting out these properties, and it has been since 2020. So I think we've got one image just of the of a few photos of one of the properties that the royal family have been very kindly leasing. I mean, they're not looking fantastic. They're not. They actually look like my old. They look like my old uni flat in Stepney Green. It's. I mean, I wasn't completely horrified when I saw this story. I didn't think surely not. Just had a comment there in terms of the prison. Long-term exposure to radon is an increased risk of lung cancer. Hope this helps me. This does help. Thank you very much. So not great with that prison, but yeah, it's not super shocking that the royal family are being exploitative, but it is quite brazen, I feel.
I mean, are we shocked? You know,
I wasn't like, oh my god, the royal family is not on our side.
Like, oh my god, the super rich family who are
This is the last
supposedly
straw.
ordained by God. Like, I'm stunned that they're not our mates. I'm so surprised.
I mean,
Parasite family has been exposed to do parasitical things, so
yeah,
I'm so shocked. I mean, like I think what is surprising to a lot of people is the relationship between our public services and the royal family. I'm not shocked, but I think a lot of people think, well, the royal family live off their own wealth, i.e., the wealth that we stole from other nations and given to by the taxpayer, and that's it. But this documentary has uncovered, no, they're getting more revenue streams from our public services, which is a scandal in which nothing will happen. I don't think attitudes will even change. There are people who are firmly pro-monarchy, and it's very difficult for them to change their minds. In fact, they won't. I mean, I think the same people will always buy into the monarchy.
Yeah.
No
matter what they do. I mean, we have Prince Andrew, accused paedophile, and that's done nothing.
Paedophile.
The
Crazy.
thing is, we occupy this really weird space in the UK with like what a monarchist is, because when the Queen carked it and he took over, old sausage fingers was suddenly everywhere. There were all these people that were like, I'm a monarchist, but I prefer my monarchy not woke. And I'm like, if you're a monarchist, you do what the monarchy says. That is actually what a monarchist is. So the idea of you being like, I would prefer it if the monarchy wasn't like this, means you're not a monarchist, you absolute Fruit Loops.
But Davey will never forgive him for what he did to Diana.
Indeed. I mean, I'm like, ew. But
that was the turnabout of the like genuine. I genuinely think people were off the monarchy as soon as King Charles came in. Like, never forgive him.
I think
never forgive him.
The thing is, it's not just this stuff as well. Like I talk regularly about the fact that I worked in the NHS for a couple of years, and I think it was like some no one from the royal family, like Princess fucking Anne, Margaret, Judith, fucking Crispaline, I don't fucking know, but she
Oh,
came
Princess
to
Anne Margaret Christmas Strudeline.
yeah. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Crispaline, but no, whoever it was, she came to the hospital. I think it was St James's. She came on a visit to St James's Hospital, which was the one I worked at, and they spent it must have been like 15 grand more than that just to do up one toilet, just in case she needed the loo while she was there. They painted it, they replaced the bogs, like they got all this stuff in, just in case she might have needed a piss. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if in a cash-strapped NHS trust we could have used that money slightly more wisely.
Gold
That's
toilet.
the kind of exactly. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, it's public services. Like, she let her experience it and be horrified, and then maybe the royal family could be like, "Oh, maybe we should give up some of this unfathomable wealth to the poor."
The voices.
There was a tweet from Isabel Oakeshott recently.
Sorry.
And she said she was talking about those on benefits, and she said basically these people are frankly parasites, right? So she's calling people on benefits parasites, who, whether they're disabled, they're sick, or they've lost their job, something that it happens to people. They're parasites, but not a extremely wealthy royal family who have done nothing to deserve their wealth, by the way. I mean, some people have just born out of the correct vagina.
Inbred.
That's literally it. And they get state subsidies. And your anecdote there is insane. It's like, oh, we spent 15 grand on a toilet just in case if she takes a piss. That to me is parasitical. Yeah. Good old Isabel Oakeshott and the right-wing media would never say anything about that.
I mean, it's the same as like the Telegraph complaining about people not paying their taxes and like benefit fraud when they were owned by two dudes who literally pay no taxes. Like, it's so transparent at this point. Literally in that, there's a Mirror article about the Dispatch's report, where one of the people who lives in one of these douchey properties said that they don't have any heating in their house. And they asked about double glazing, and they were told that Prince Charles doesn't like it. Like, Prince Charles was, no, you must have no glazing.
I'm afraid that you're going to have to please for the greater good of the fact that my house must
rusty, musty, gross old royals are just out here specifically not letting people get double glazing on their property. Like, I don't know how long it's going to take people to get to the point of being like, maybe the really, really rich people aren't on our side again. Like, it
don't
just
worry.
continues again and again.
We know it's Dutchy, Mark.
Thanks, Mark, by the way. Dutchy, not
Thank you, Mark. I didn't realise that it wasn't.
I was just saying because I think it's funny to call them douchey.
Well,
all right. I'll dial the crazy down.
I've douchied it. I've been calling it douchey just for this whole bit now. We won't be able to use any clips because I'll be saying douchey.
I wanted to obviously let's talk about the landlordism from the royal family. Then I mean, we saw those pictures of these disgusting flats. I mean, obviously, it makes complete sense that a parasite family engages in more parasite behavior, which is making a profit of housing, but not just that, but treating people like shit. They're really giving Jazz Athwell's run for his money, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a competition. Who can be the worst millionaire? Who can be the worst rich person? How do I use my power for evil immediately? As soon as
I love that though, because that's what being a landlord is. It's like, how do I use my powers for the worst immediately? I'll go into property.
How do I?
Where's your imagination? Do more evil stuff in different ways.
Just build a solar death ray.
Yeah, build a death ray. Do something cool. Although I guess actually that's kind of what Elon Musk is trying to do, and he does keep making me nervous. I'm just going to ruin.
Yeah, I suppose careful what you wish for. But then also, I'm very very sure that Musk has a housing portfolio, property portfolio somewhere. He probably has his fingers in some pies when it comes to housing. But yeah, I mean, look, we had a Labour MP, Jazz Athwell, who owned multiple properties where it was disgusting. He owned a children's home where apparently a child went missing. And now we've got the royal family and, with all their wealth, by the way, providing housing to people, and it's absolutely disgusting. It's you know, I find it quite funny actually, because it's like, well, the Labour Party and the royal family are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You know, they're supposed to be an anti-establishment party. I mean, they're not, the pro-establishment, but they were set up to be the anti-establishment party. And now you have Labour MPs doing the exact same practices as the royal family. And by the way, you asked the question, like, when will people wake up to this? They won't. What's going to happen is those people that still support the monarchy, they're just going to die out, and then the younger generation are going to be more anti-monarchy. So it's just basically they're here to stay for a long, long time, I think.
I mean, I think for the royal family at the minute, I feel like no press is good press. I actually don't think, like, I feel like the dispatches thing, I was quite surprised that they did a whole thing on it, because it is, like, if you think about, like, pre-Queen dying, what do we call it? Pre-EW, whatever it is, AD, from the Queen passing away, like, a lot of people were, I think there was a lot more widespread support, because she'd been there for ages, and there was the whole World War II thing, you know what I mean? Like, there was an element of, like, shared history that people had with her. People hate King Charles. People think he's awful. They've squeezed everything they can out of the Meghan Markle hatred thing and the weird racism they can play into there. I just think it feels like for the monarchy at the minute, they'd rather just, like, completely go under. Oh, and the pedo, forgot about him. Like, it just feels like they'd rather be just quietly siphoning off that money at this point, because I haven't seen good press about the royal family in a really long time.
I think realistically, we're just, they are what they are. And I don't know how we would ever push for a referendum on whether we even want to abolish the monarchy. But it's like, I'm so tired of the same arguments about the royals. And I'm also tired of the same, like, arguments that you have about landlords all the time. How many, like, you should not be able to have MPs that are landlords make decisions about having that as a second job in Parliament. It's like, oh yes, hello, I'm here to vote on the
on
not
my
being
job
a bad guy stuff, and I'm actually in favour of the bad guy stuff. So, yeah, seems.
I'm in
really
favour of
good.
keeping all of my money. Surprisingly,
one of Jazz Athwell's tenants is his constituent. So I was talking about this the other day. It's like, imagine going to your MP surgery and you go, oh, my house is moldy. There's so many things wrong with it. My landlord isn't doing anything. Can you fix it? And
you're like,
here it's literally the guy sits down and goes, well, I'm your landlord.
Let me just pass you over.
How is that not a conflict of interest?
You're not going to vote for me? Well, I hope you enjoy the cold and living outside. Like,
actually, you couldn't make it up, could you? I mean, I think it would make a fantastic fictional story. I very much enjoy it. I'd be like, oh, this could never happen, which is why.
And an incredibly miserable real story.
It's like reading it in a book. Oh, so it's escapism. I like reading things that don't really happen because it's impossible. And MP is also a landlord of a tenant, and tenant goes to the surgery and says, my house is full of mold. Can you fix it? I can't because I'm your landlord. That would never happen. It does, because reality is often more crazy than fiction.
Yeah, I'm your landlord, and I'm also the king.
I'm the king. So, okay, well,
your landlord's the king. Do I can't win?
That's gonna happen one day. Fucking one of the.
You can't get double glazing because King Charles doesn't like it.
Oh God!
What are you gonna do?
You know, at least you could. I suppose you could kick out Jazz Athwell. You know, vote for someone else. But you got the king there as well to take up the mantle of landlordism.
There's only one way to get rid of it.
But it's insane to me that this is not a conflict of interest. I mean, Samuel Kay was saying to me, he was a guest on Friday, that it should be a rule in Parliament that you shouldn't be able to be a landlord, which I agree with. I would go a step further and I say it should be in the Labour Party rule book. You're not allowed to be a member of the party, or at least an elected politician, if you have, if you're a landlord.
I think it's go a step further still and say you shouldn't be allowed to be a landlord.
Yeah, just to slightly take this in a really.
I don't want to hear your next step though, although I probably would agree with it.
Kill the landlord.
Keep it on the down low.
We're joking. We're joking.
In Minecraft, guys, allegedly.
Yeah, on a Tuesday. Did you guys?
Is that knock at the door? Secret. FBI,
yeah. No, you don't understand. You can't come in. This is the king's house.
We're gonna have to work out how we can change the screen on the fly, because Sneaker's probably going to be dragged away from the.
Because Davey's trying to take us away.
Did you guys see the article that was in the Telegraph that was about the couple? that had a property portfolio of 60 houses in Colchester, and they were like, "We've had to sell our boat and go back to work full time because of Rachel Reeves's budget." And it's like, the budget is like 12 hours old, and you've had to sell your boat and go back to full time work because you couldn't make a profit on 60 houses as a portfolio in a place that if you sneezed, someone in London could hand you a tissue. How stupid are you?
We can't possibly come like, it's like where the small business owners were like, well, how am I supposed to pay my staff if you make me pay them minimum wage?
If
And it was
your
like,
business
I don't know,
is
be
so
better at
bad,
it. Yeah.
if your business is so shit that you can't afford to pay people minimum wage, sell up and go and work for someone else, you moron.
You're terrible at business. You've done business badly if you can't.
That was why when
My 60
Badenoch,
houses made of gold, I have to sell them all.
when Badenoch was running for leader, and she did that whole freaking thing about like, I think in some cases maternity pay and minimum wage has gone too far. Okay, how do you perceive the world to work without those things? Like, just someone at work, like, hi, I'm just going to put you on hold. Sorry, I'm just having a contraction. All right, bye.
Yeah.
Like, how is it going to be? Like,
I think, if anything, like, people should have to work harder when pregnant.
Just pull yourself up your bootstraps.
But that's because that's the world
two people
she lives in. She lives in a world where if you're in a situation where you're less privileged than the people around you, you have to work harder. That's her. That's everything that she's experienced as part of the Labour Party. So she probably does think that's how it works. Whenever you've got anything that puts you at a disadvantage.
In fairness, can you imagine being Kemi Badenoch's child as well? Because she must have gotten to like literally like due date and been like, right, come on, either pay rent or fuck off.
Off you go.
Well, that's the thing. She that wouldn't have been Kemi Badenoch because it would have been nice for her. It's just other people she wants it to be.
Yeah. Get them out leave. Get them done.
But like, you just think back to Jeremy Corbyn in the alternative timeline. Jeremy Corbyn wants to take us to like all roads lead back to Corbyn.
With you, they do. If I can just bring.
It's bad weather outside. Well, we'll talk about Jeremy Corbyn.
Jeremy wouldn't have let this happen.
Oh, my toe! This wouldn't have happened if Corbyn would have been in charge.
So I was having a conversation with someone, and we were saying about how, and it wasn't Jeremy Corbyn. No, I haven't spoken to him for a while. Actually, not on a speed dial. God, that sounded so boomer, didn't it? He uses speed dial. Yeah, I'm not on his WhatsApp. And we were talking about like American, how they don't have mat leave, right? They have to take holiday for it, right? But then I was being told about how like in some places in Europe, women can get up to like a year, I think.
Yeah.
My old job had that.
And you just think, we had a Jeremy Corbyn who wanted to, push us towards a more social democratic Europe-style economic system. We didn't get that, and now we've got a leader of the Tory party who wants to talk about the same policies that the US have, which is, you think you've got it, we think you got it too good. You give birth and you get time off work paid. This is disgusting. How dare you?
Did you know that in the US as well, you also have a limited number of paid sick days?
Yeah.
Like 10 days. And then it's like, okay, stop being sick.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I mean, to be fair, our sick policy
You've been sick enough.
is god awful as well. But yeah, it's always worse than
you've been sick now for 2 weeks.
At my old company, they had this thing where they were like, if you're sick, then we're not going to pay you for the first 2 days. But if you're sick for 3 days or more, then we'll pay you. And I'm like,
yeah,
well, then I'll just be sick for an extra fucking day, you idiot. Like, oh, yeah, I'm still, I'll see you tomorrow when I'm getting paid. Like,
I used to work in a call center, and you had a 3-day sick rule within a year. So you're like 3 sick days off in a year. And if
a year?
Yeah, and if you exceeded that, you could have got fired. I mean, you were on your last warning.
At the call center?
Yeah.
Like people were
I mean, because a lot of them were agency workers. I remember actually. So I was drafted in as an agency worker, and we had like 4 weeks training, which was all just like a little classroom learning about stuff. Then we had 2 weeks on the phones.
Yeah.
And when you call up, I work for RAC, and you call up, there's a script you have to say, right? If you don't do that script, you get in trouble. This person, mind you, it was like our second day training on the phones. He got the scripts wrong 3 times in a row, and he's fired on the spot. Like it was like, pack your things up and go during the day. I was like, where's he gone?
How
He's
wrong
been
did he
fired.
get it?
I don't know, maybe missed out a word or something. You know, he didn't call the person on the phone a twat or anything, but
I'm
I
just
think he
thinking
forgot a
about
sentence.
you calling and immediately telling people about Jeremy Corbyn.
I mean, I was 18 years old. I wasn't very political then, so I didn't even know who he was.
Really? Poser.
No, I'm a LARPer. So
socialist.
I know, and I mean, to be fair, that was working in the call center is a very radicalizing experience.
Yeah,
it was it's such a depressing job. But and I remember the people being there for 10 years, and they fell ill and had to be off work for quite a long time, and they try and force them out the company. But I've been there for 10 years. It's really insane stuff, and that was back then, and arguably in some places things have got worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a very radicalizing experience. But yeah, their rule was essentially you get 3 sick days off a year, and if you hit your third day, we'll call you in, and they'll say like, some people got fired off the back of it. I did this thing that I'm a jammy git sometimes though, and I did this thing where after 6 months, right? I wasn't very good at the job. I hated the job. I wasn't very good at it. 6 months in, I still kept
really
making
good at a call center. You've got a very commanding voice.
Yeah, but then I would probably. Oh, so here's the thing I would do is because I hated it. I would be something called call rap. I don't know if you got if you guys have never worked in
a call rap,
center, something called call rap. It means that you can. I don't know what a cool rat is. Hey, there's a cool rat here.
Hey, I'm the
cool rat. Want to buy some insurance?
Hey, I'm the cool rat. You want to buy some insurance?
The cool rat is a little low place where
you basically once you've taken a call.
Got any cheese?
Got any cheese? You could put yourself a cool rap, right? And it takes you out of the. I mean, we've lost Sneaker. It puts you off the system where you don't take any calls for a while, and it's supposed to be that if you're writing an email or you're leaving some notes or whatever. And my call rap was like 50%, which meant I took hours and hours of just doing no work because I just hated taking calls. So yeah, I wasn't very good at the job. But what I kept doing was like after 6 months, they'd be like, Curtis, your call rap and your bathroom time is quite long. And I'd be like, oh, I'm still new. I'm still learning things. They go, oh, no, that's okay. We understand. I literally got away with that for like 6 months or a year. I mean, did they not realize how long I've been there? I just kept saying, oh, I'm just still really new, you know? So
I just kept forgetting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got away with getting tips when I was working hospitality for like a year and a half in. People were
how dare you? You got tips.
No, but they were giving me tips because they thought I was brand new. But that wasn't a strategy. I was just insanely bad at
God, I've never.
I had
was really bad.
I had a really funny thing the other day. Like, it was of all people, it was one of my old doctors because I work for like people call in about medical governance, and it was one of my old doctors, and I'd covered the phones, and my old doctor rang in and was like, I was like, "Hi, welcome to the company I work for. David speaking. How can I help?" And he just said my colleague's name, and I was like, "Yes, that is a person that works here. What do you want?" And he was like, I want to speak to her. I was like, okay. No, I shouldn't do it, but I'm a manager, so I'm allowed to do it. I was just like, so sometimes when you call and you want things, you should tell people. And I was like, I'll see if she's free. And I like put him on hold. And it was like a scene from Will and Grace. I was like, Grace, the bitch we hate is on line 1. Should I put okay, here you go. Thanks very much. Bye. I just like call center stuff is so infuriating because if you speak to a decent human being, it's not a bad job. But how many decent human beings are there? When someone rings in and just goes, do this thing, you're like,
no.
The urge to tell you to just go away is so strong.
No.
Well, you know, when you have like everyone knows the customer's going to call up. I mean, I work for a waste paper industry. I literally worked in rubbish.
What jobs have you've
I've had help desk. Worked retail,
cool rat,
hospitality, cool rat. You want to buy some rat and buy some cheese? And
you don't sell rats if you're a cool rat.
No, I am a cool rat. I don't sell rats. So you're obsessed with cool rat, just like I'm obsessed with Jeremy Corbyn.
It's a silly thing that's made me giggle.
It is made me giggle. So yeah, call center. What else I've worked in? I've been a labourer before as well.
Labourer.
Trying to slack off work labouring is a bit more difficult, but there are ways. But yeah, I was working for a waste paper company, and I was on the service desk, and there was this one guy. So we used to do with big companies and smaller companies. This guy owned like a champagne or winery. Everyone hated him. Champagnery.
Yeah.
And we could tell by his voice, oh, it's this guy again. And he would scream at you on the phone, my rubbish isn't being picked up. And I was just thinking, and that's also a radicalizing experience, right? You're there, and I'm 20 years old going, I'm getting paid £18,000 a year for a guy to say, you haven't picked up my rubbish. And you're just taking this abuse. And it's not your fault. And you think, yeah, maybe capitalism isn't the best system there is.
Any service industry, hospitality, all of those areas, like I think do immediately. You can also tell who's a piece of work by the way that they treat people who do those jobs. It's absolutely. I think we've gone off topic.
We have, but it's worth it.
I do think we've gone off topic. I'm going to have to very quickly. I'm really sorry. Just turn off my camera and charge my camera, but I'm just going to plug it in. I will be 1 second because I don't want to have what happened last time I hosted the debrief happen, where I'm in the middle of a plea for financial support and my whole camera turns off. So I'm doing this by choice. I will just be 1 moment. I don't know if you guys want to go onto a 2:2 screen.
I didn't build that.
Okay, I'll be 1 second. Just be 1 second then. Perfect.
I will say,
managed well this time.
Becca A in chat has said, I do silly voices when I was working call center just so people would stay on the line to listen to the silly voice. And I never told people I was doing it. But years and years ago, I worked for a call center in North Leeds just after I'd finished uni. And the amount of times I would just do completely different voices to see if I could get away with it. And my favorite was either Alan Rickman, usually. Hello, welcome to the business. What can I do for you? Yes, I believe he is available. Please give me 1 moment. And like, I remember once the like big company owner walking past, and I didn't realize he was in, and I was like, "Yes, I'm just going to transfer you now." And I like got off the phone, and he was like, "You all right?" I was like, "I just got a very sore throat today." It's the only way I could think
Alan Rickman beside us.
Turn to manual 394.
Wow. I mean, that would certainly bore me though. If someone had an Alan Rickman voice on the phone. That, or we might get some weird sort of ASMR from it.
Yeah, that. Or I used to do Stewie from Family Guy too. That was always fun.
Oh,
I know that. So David's really good at accents and stuff. So, and I feel like he's we're gonna be spending the next hour of him just doing accents.
Do it like he hasn't already been doing them.
I have to get it out somehow. Like, if it's not this, I'll just be sat here alone at my flat at 10 o'clock at night going, "I was a good boy."
Oh my god. Trying to get people to sign up to NPower is a hard sell. Oh my god, NPower. I feel about that. Yeah. Right. Should we go on to our final topic of the evening? If you want to jump in. To be honest, it just feels like there's been so many Elon Musk stories recently, ever since he sort of really jumped on the Trump train, came out doing his little jumps everywhere, talking about being dark MAGA and all of that kind of thing that's come out. He's also now in legal trouble in the States for his role in like election canvassing and trying to bribe people essentially into voting for Trump. So I thought we'd just we'll carry on like the hating on the very, very rich people part of this segment. Essentially just wanted to bring this because he looks like such a twat. There's no news. He's been absolute. I saw a clip earlier of someone saying that he is the most divorced man. I think maybe Graham Linehan would come alongside it, but he's also now in trouble for offering $1 million prizes to voters for voting for Trump, which isn't allowed. That's been brought over. He tried to turn that into a federal case as opposed to a state case, which the court have rejected and returned back. He's also being sued over canvassing proceedings, over people not being reimbursed and people being exploited, the usual things that the millionaires do. But there are also a lot of think pieces at the moment about the fact that should he be able to play such a large role in the election? I'm almost I feel like I've gone through a phase with this where originally didn't like the fact that Elon Musk was being memed as much, because it kind of the same way people call Boris Bojo, and it like makes it fun, but actually he's a massive fascist. I thought that was a really concerning thing. Now I don't know where we're at, because I almost think it's so embarrassing that I think he might be undermining himself.
I think the memeing of Elon Musk is effective, though, because what it's signaling to a lot of people is that we don't live in a meritocracy, and that he's not there through merit, he's not there through intelligence, and he's just one big idiot who happened to be born in a family that profited off of South African apartheid. Right?
Yeah.
So I think memeing this guy is actually really effective, because more and more people waking up to the fact that Elon Musk isn't this like kind of nerdy but cool guy, just wants to take people to the
people
to,
thought he was
Mars.
like a tech guy, like a bit of a
I mean, he was the liberal darling, and he did lean into that. He was like the coolly nerdy tech guy, and now he's gone down this ultra right-wing pipeline,
and he's trying to
Trump
meme himself, but he's doing it badly, which is making it worse.
Well, yeah, I mean, the guy is the epitome of cringe. You can't escape that. And anytime someone criticizes him, he tries to sort of come back on it by being even more cringe. I guess that's something he can't escape from. But I suppose I want to have fun with this guy, but there's a real serious issue here, and it's the fact that we have the richest man in the world owning a large means of communication, which is Twitter. Now, he said that years ago, I don't like partisan within social media. He criticized Jack Dorsey, the old Twitter boss, and apparently he was really left-wing. He's not a billionaire. He can't really be left-wing billionaire. But he said, I won't endorse any particular candidate or whatever. Obviously, that's a lie. I mean, he's literally rigging the algorithm for just pro-Trump accounts now. He's basically the VP, actually. I mean, actually, what was interesting at Trump's last rally, usually when you have a presidential rally, the VP comes out, then the presidential candidate comes out, right? At the last rally, it was JD Vance, then Elon Musk, then Donald Trump. So Vance has been relegated, and Musk.
Well, that's the theory behind his whole dark MAGA thing, right? Like that he's like the guy behind the scene, except it was just embarrassing.
He's very plainly open about how corrupt he is,
and he's donated millions to the Trump super PACs, and he's made it. He's almost exactly said the words, "I want Trump to win, so I don't have to pay as many taxes." Like it's so blatant that he's like, it would really benefit me personally if Trump gets in, because I want to do all kinds of dodgy bullshit. And people are still like, yeah, he's just a visionary. I'm just like him. Like, it's bizarre.
I think that mindset that these people have is the most infuriating thing about them. I'm not talking about Musk now. I'm talking about his adherents. These like, oh, I'm just one business deal away from being where Elon Musk is. It's like his money was made by his parents, like not even paying people, but getting people to dig fucking emeralds out of the ground with their bloody stubbed fingers, you idiots. Like, you're not just going to mystically become an Elon Musk. And even if he did, look, he is literally the poster boy for money does not buy happiness. He's fucking miserable. He spends all of his time on the internet being like, I'm really cool. I'm really cool. Everyone likes me. I'm cool.
Look how funny I am. Doge.
Yeah. I've got loads of money. LOL. Yeah.
His daughter coming out and attacking him is absolutely fantastic, because, of course, his daughter's trans, and he basically just abandoned her because she was trans. She is trans, and she has been ripping into shreds. I've really enjoyed it very much. He's just the billionaire Graham Linehan, isn't he?
It does feel. It feels like I just can't get in the headspace of not seeing how embarrassing and weird it is. Vicky, oh my god, Vicky's just dropped something in the chat.
Really, this will be interesting if true.
Is that?
It is.
This just in.
Yes, he offered one of his friends.
I don't want to Google what I'd need to Google to check this.
He offered one of his friends who is childless his semen, because he was like, "You want a kid?" And it's like, that's not a thing normal people do.
Actually. It's not, is it?
It's not just semen. It's dark semen.
It's efficient semen.
Raw.
I like so basically Musk's role in the Trump administration is he's apparently been offered a job which is Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, right? And basically what he wants to do is turn the US into Argentina. Really funny. So Milei is the current leader of Argentina. He's like extreme free market capitalist, and he went in and just slashed all these budgets.
Oh my
government
God.
spending and programs are good, by the way, but he was like, no, we don't need it. Department of Education gone. Yeah, apparently don't need a Department of Education, which, by the way, Trump has talked about getting rid of. And guess what? Inflation is at like 400%.
Yeah,
Something ridiculous between like 40 to 45% of people in Argentina are now classed as in poverty. And Trump, when they elected Milei, Musk said, prosperity is heading towards Argentina. Insane. That's what he wants to do for Trump. And he's literally got his own administrative role, which is government efficiency.
Well, he said it recently, didn't he?
Sorry, yeah, go on.
He said that thing recently. He said, like, I think America needs to have some hard times. I think that it's gonna be really good for us.
Oh yeah, he said that Trump getting in would still lead to hard times.
Yeah,
he was like, Trump would lead to hard times.
Yeah,
obviously not for him though. He's a billionaire, but for working class Americans,
that's the thing that I just don't understand. How these people that are enthused by that. He's talking about you morons. He's literally saying, like, you guys will suffer, but I will make lots of money. Like,
it's just embarrassing. I mean, Twitter is, I think someone said in the chat, like, people thought that he was...
No, this is RFK. He could be, I think Trump wants to put him in the Department of Health. Obviously, RFK is a conspiracy guy. He once said that, like, COVID only works on certain races of people, or people only certain races are affected by COVID. That's the guy who that's the guy who actually had his brain eaten by worms.
Yeah.
You know, when people say, "Oh, he's got brain worms," but like he literally did have his brain eaten by worms, and explains a lot. But yeah, he wants to remove fluoride from water. Which, David, I know you work in healthcare. You're going to explain better than I could why that's a really bad thing.
Fluoride is one of the things that makes sure that we don't get, like, things like listeria and stuff. Like, and also, I mean, like, fluoride is not harmful. Like, I mean, obviously,
wasn't that a plot line in Parks and Rec, where the whole joke was that people were complaining about fluoride being in the water? Like, that was literally a storyline in the show Parks and Recreation, where it was like the whole town had bought into a ridiculous conspiracy theory about fluoride in the water. It was. I think it was. And they were like trying to explain, like, it's literally nothing at all. And they were like, no, we need it. We need the fluoride out the water. Yeah.
It's like, it's good for your teeth, and it stops, like, certain other bad things from, like, growing in the water. But it's not bad. But removing it is incredibly harmful. But this is the same people that are like, oh my God, unpasteurized milk is so great. Do you understand the diseases you can get from unpasteurized milk? Like,
rich people are trying to kill us all the time. Rich people
what is
are
it
trying
about
to kill
this?
us.
Like,
stop
what is it about the,
them.
Let's go back to the days of living on the frontier, where, like sipping a glass of water at the wrong time from the wrong bit of the river meant that you got lockjaw and died. Like,
no, but that is what
people had 12 children.
Jordan Peterson did that as well, wasn't it? Jordan Peterson with his full pure raw beef diet, or whatever the hell that his daughter put him on, that made him really ill. Like, these people they're actively. It's not that they're ignorant and that people are getting misled. Like, these very, very wealthy, powerful people want you to be sick and die, and they want you to fight each other the entire. Like, it's on purpose. It's not. I don't know how. Like, how much more do we need to get to be like, wait a minute.
I'm pretty sure Marjorie Taylor Greene was like, you shouldn't. About the milk, she was all for. What is it? I can't remember what you said. It was the type of milk. Yeah, she was like, yeah, this is good, and obviously it's destroying people's health.
It's raw milk, but it literally, all they do, like, a cow's udder is full of bacteria. So you scooch it out into a doofer, and then you put it in a machine, and the machine goes hot for a second, and that is pasteurization as far as it's basically that simple. And she doesn't want that because
government
because
regulations are
apparently the
woke.
bacteria is really fucking tasty or something. Like,
I think it's more about regulation,
in
isn't
charge
it?
of the health stuff. Sorry.
I mean, well, I mean, it's
A
not even
worm's
just
eating his
that.
brain.
I mean, first of all, I'm gonna have to say it. I'm sorry, not the boar worms, but like the other thing is like this is the guy as well who was like, oh yeah, I just decided to dump a dead bear in the middle of in the middle of Central Park for the lols, and also the reason that he got a brainworm is that he's a big fan of eating raw meat. Like, don't eat raw meat, you know, like maybe a bit of beef carpaccio or some shit like that, but like. Be careful. Like, there's a reason why human beings evolved and started doing the things that we did, and it's because less death.
It does feel like a purposeful thing at this stage. Like it does. I mean, I don't. The only thing I don't get is that they're killing off their own supporters. But like the whole anti-vax thing in the US, like
it's because they believe it. Like they do believe it.
But it's also an effect of capitalism, because notice how these are all regulations, which makes it harder for businesses to exploit. Right? It's funny that it's connected, because regulations is bad for big business.
There'll be a private contractor who's going to remove all the fluoride, like a fluoride removal contractor, worth billions, like doing like a track and trace vibe.
So to pivot back to Elon Musk, though, about his because I mean we should probably shit on all rich people right now, like all the billionaires and the billionaire supporters.
I thought we were.
But I want to say about Musk, because obviously he's doing this. He's talking about government efficiency, that we should just cut loads of budgets and stuff, which obviously would lead to societal collapse, which is what's happening in Argentina. This guy has had government subsidies his entire life, by the way. He's never actually done anything for himself. Most of the businesses he's come into contact with were already established, and he's just come in as CEO, and he's actually pissed off other people within the companies because he's just tried taking credit for it. PayPal was one, which, by the way,
and he had a deal where when he bought the company, they couldn't dispute the fact that he was put down as a like co-founder as well. Like that was part of that. He purchased the title of founder,
but he wanted that. So all he's wanted to do, and you can see it through him owning Twitter, he's wanted validation, because no one really likes him because he's obviously a terrible person. So that's why he's wanted to be this Tony Stark role. He's never been interested in business or running a company effectively. He just wanted to be that guy who owns that business. And you can see that with every business, whether it's PayPal, again, he wanted to change that name to X, by the way, unsuccessfully. Tesla, and now Twitter. So he's just bought into companies, and that's it. And of course, every company he's ran has been terrible. In fact, he's created a situation now where all the value of the stocks in his companies is predicated on him. He's turned it into a personality cult, which is bad because he's a terrible guy. He's not likable. So that's the problem. So Tesla are fucked because of Musk, because obviously the stocks are tied to his personality and who he is as a person. And obviously that's not good, because Tesla is an electric car company, yet he's supporting Donald Trump, and he's saying, there was that big long interview between Musk and Trump, and he was saying, like, obviously, I have a company that makes electronic cars, but we shouldn't be too harsh on the oil industry. Like, what a pathetic way. Like, have some dignity about you. Just say, the oil companies are fucked and they're destroying the planet. But he didn't want to do that. And that is like, if you're owning stocks in Tesla, you should be like, what the hell? Surely you want to push Tesla as the forefront. But he's like, actually, let's not be too critical on oil companies, because he's a little bitch.
Do you remember when he was like, if someone can tell me what to do with my money that would solve world hunger, I'll do it. He's like, but nobody's got a plan. And then like Oxfam or someone were like, this is what you need to do. And he was like, no.
Yeah.
I don't like that plan. And then he fucked it off again. It's like, people need to take something away from it. But the fact that he's got to this stage of wealth and this stage of power, it's already too late. We can't stop him. We can't stop him from doing his weird, awful things, because we live in a society that allows billionaires to exist.
Well, the problem with wealth is once you've got a certain amount, it just attracts more wealth. It creates more wealth. The more wealth you have, the easier it is to continue to build wealth. And it's like, I have a friend who, like, his family was super rich, and he was like, "Oh yeah," and then we lost it all, and I'm like, "Ooh, like how stupid is your
Did they own
that you
60
lost?"
properties in Colchester?
Yeah, I mean, probably, maybe it was the same people. Maybe I need to check. Probably not the wisest message to send. Hi, how come you're poor now? But like it's just ridiculous. You know, he's still on track to become the world's first trillionaire, and it's like, no, it drives me crazy when you say like, oh, you know, there shouldn't be billionaires. People shouldn't have that much money, and people are like, actually, people work really hard for that amount of money. And it's like, oh my god, what do they do? Do they just do one thing themselves, or do they hire other people and pay them much less money than they should to make that money? And then do they pay much less taxes than they should so they can keep that money? And then do they pay into schemes and launder the money and offshore it? And is that how they end up with that money? And it's just like they just don't. It's like impossible to get through to these absolute billionaire ass lickers that, again, it's like you will never be that. You are closer and you will always be to an unhoused person than you will ever be to Elon Musk. You have more in common with Elon Musk's housekeeper than you will ever have with Elon Musk. No matter how many times you pay that £8 or whatever it is for the little tick so that you can be like, Elon, please notice me.
It's so embarrassing. It's just,
I mean, yeah. And I like it when it's like, oh, we should raise taxes on billionaires, and then someone who's earn like 50 grand a year, like, how dare you?
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about the 1% of the 1%. We're not talking about your taxes, but that's it's capitalism and the media fooling people into thinking that actually we need the rich to survive. We do not need billionaires. They should not exist. Billionaires, they want you dead.
Curtis, you've got a little.
You're going
that
a
was
bit
a rope.
jumpy.
That was a AI rant there. You went a little bit wobbly, a little bit wally, but
it's been a bit funny.
But it was good.
Oh, it's Elon Musk. He's messing with the algorithm.
Elon's in. It's like when he got hacked with his Trump interview. But I mean, it's like Richard Tice calling the budget socialist, being like, hardworking people are going to be affected by this by raising taxes. We're going to lose out on the wealth creators. It's like we've not lost out on wealth creators for a really, really long time. The wealth inequality gap in the UK is growing. We're like the 7th worst out of the developed countries in the OECD for wealth inequality. The top 50 families in the UK have the same amount of wealth combined as like the bottom 50% of the country. We don't need the wealth creators, I feel, and this might just be me, are not necessarily creating that wealth to share. It doesn't feel like it's trickling, you know?
I said this the other day.
I'm trying to stop myself from getting into Marxism right now, but
I wrote in an article the other day something that I really liked about wealth creation. Now I can't remember what it was. God damn it! I hate when my brain does this. I said something like wealth creation is like this really interesting concept because when it's acknowledged in it was about the budget, like in Parliament, when something like that's acknowledged, when you say like, well, you can't tax the wealth creators, that's socialism. It's like it's really weird how you guys say that socialism's bullshit, then you acknowledge that proximity to the means to create wealth means that you can create wealth. Like just tipping your hat to the fact that yes, socialism isn't theory, it's literal fact.
We need all of you to work harder and longer and take a load of hits because that's the only way we're going to build wealth in the country. But that wealth has to go to the wealth creators, actually, because otherwise they're not going to stay in the country. So we actually need you to keep, but they'll create it, but then we should probably make some more. So we're going to keep you working hard. Like how?
Yeah, like there's a cup and it's getting fuller and fuller with wealth, and then it just eventually, once we've created enough wealth and once we've suffered enough, then it'll all come spilling over the edge, and then trickle down economics will be real, and we'll all live happily ever after.
It's like the whole this is really stupid, but the other day I literally Googled the definition of capitalism because I got myself messed up about something else, and I'm very educated as a creator here. But I was like, the literal whole point of capital is that you build and hoard capital for yourself.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. That's all that it's designed to do. Where do we think that we're getting it from? Like, where are we? When does it pay back in? It never pays back for us. I don't understand how we've got into this situation when we can accuse things of being socialist.
Well, people, they love to look at the like 6 examples of socialist countries. They're like, oh, well, look, it's like in Vietnam, or do you remember what happened during the communist? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, these few examples you've got are really bad. I walked past 2 people shooting up heroin in the street the other day because this country is so destitute and there's so many unhoused people and there's so many people that are suffering, and we can't have kids because we can't afford the kids. We can't afford to put the kids in the houses that we can't afford. We can't afford to take time off work because Kemi Badenoch thinks that you're not allowed to take time off. It's like, oh, gee, capitalism's working so fucking well that the UK's birth rate is like,
well, that's essentially it. That those that cry about socialism are only just explaining what capitalism is, right? All the things that you think is wrong with socialism. So my favorite one is when it was Margaret Thatcher's quote initially, where people say socialism is about spending other people's money. And it's like, okay, hold on a second. So let's follow this logic. If you are a business owner, a very big business owner, and you hire workers, and the workers produce the wealth for you, they go out and work and make your profits, and then you keep that profits and spend it. You're literally spending other people's money. That's I mean, that is what it is. Capitalism is ownership. And I also reject the idea. I mean, I reject it's completely not true that the rich are wealth creators. They don't create the wealth. The people who create the wealth are the workers and the consumers. The workers are paid well. They spend that money into the economy. They spend it on businesses. Businesses make profits from it. Like, I've always said to people, if they buy into this idea that we need the rich people, it sucks, but we need it. It's like, if a CEO dies, God forbid, the company continues. I mean, the board of directors will just find a new CEO. But imagine if every single cleaner didn't turn up to work. You couldn't open your stores. Even Nero agrees.
My tiny dog. My tiny dog was asleep just behind the desk because she was scared of the fireworks, and then she's just awoken and run with purpose out the door. I don't know what. Apologies. I think she is a socialist. But
dogs are socialists. You just I remember once I said that all cats are Tories, and I got absolute, like, my comments were like,
I mean, I low-key agree with that, which I think we're going to get cancelled for that, but I kind of agree. I feel like
kind of Tory in a way.
Dogs are left-wing, cats are...
Yeah, actually, I do think Deer is a little bit of a reform supporter.
Ooh, okay.
I'm sorry. You remember when she interrupted me during the Israel interview when I first came on Turn Left? I was trying to talk about the nuances of Israel and anti-Semitism, and the dog started barking. And I was like, "Oh no!"
Oh no! Really good time. That was your first appearance on Turn Left.
It was,
and it was excellent that your dog decided to interrupt you during the weaponization of anti-Semitism, a really serious topic.
It was the most nuanced thing I was trying to talk about. And she was like, "How about?" But no, you're right. I mean, it's I don't know when we're gonna get to grips with the fact that, like, this whole wealth creating thing is bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit. Like, they're hoarding it like dragons. We're never going to get it.
I feel like we're not going to get out of that narrative unless we get out of capitalism, because as long as capitalism exists, it's going to permeate this narrative, isn't it? It's going to use the media to say you need rich people, because obviously the system is like, we want to stay. So unless we...
That's what I was going to say. That's what my dog interrupted me in the middle of a thought. I was trying to cling on to it. Like, that's the... Oh, no!
It's gone, isn't it?
I think my personal favorite, like you said about the self-fulfilling prophecy thing, if it comes back, just interrupt me.
I'm going to try and
I remember in 2020, when lockdowns first started and everything, Boris Johnson was fresh in the job and all the shelves were empty because of COVID and the disruption of the supply chain. And someone tweeted a picture of, like, all the empty shelves in Tesco and was like, this is what it would have been like under Jeremy Corbyn. And I was like, this is what it is literally like right now under Boris Johnson. Why do you keep describing the thing that's happening now as socialism? Because socialism is literally just that you have a closer proximity to the means of creating wealth. And also, Grace Blakely's book that we spoke about on the train back from London that time, she talks a lot about how it's to do with being closer to like having the idea of a government with central planning. And I can understand why leftists would be concerned about having an avenue of government be in charge of central planning when it comes to the distribution of wealth. But what the fucking hell have we got now? Like, we've just had a budget.
I've remembered my
Go
thought.
on, do it.
It was the thing that this is what pisses me off with this rhetoric constantly when you have people talking about, like, whenever you bring up the fact that the rich are just getting richer and they're doing it in a corrupt way, and that's, they want you to fight against each other because of all of these different things, and their only goal is being self-serving. People are like, yeah, so annoying. And that's why I blame immigrants. It's like people think that it's like this unmovable thing that, like, yeah, well, the rich are always going to want to get richer and the politicians are always going to serve the purposes of the rich. But the thing that I can change is I can ask those politicians to stop letting people immigrate. Like, and they think that that's like the barrier. Well, like, oh, well, we can blame those people, so we're going to blame them because that's too big a thing to deal with. Like, what do you mean? Like, they're the people who are telling you that these people are the problem. Why are you trusting them in this one specific circumstance? It's ridiculous.
I mean, that is how effective propaganda is, though, because I was watching this really interesting documentary from A More Perfect Union. It's a US channel. It's about supporting union movements. It's really good, like a media channel, excellent stuff. And they went to some like rural America, and they were talking to this one person, Trump supporter, and they were talking about the issues. They were talking about income inequality. They were talking about the rich. They were talking about wages. And the answers were exactly the answers that we would give, right? They were like, they sounded quite left-wing. They sounded quite socialist. Yet they wanted to support Trump and then pivoted to immigrants. That is how strong propaganda is, because really the issue isn't educating people on how the current system works. A lot of people are aware there's a financial and economic elite. Everyone knows that. That's not a unknown sort of conspiracy, or I won't say conspiracy, it's the truth. It's not something that people don't realize. People know that very well, but what you've just perfectly articulated there, Sneaker, is that, and that's why we blame immigrants. And it's like, and that also goes back to the image you were talking about, David, where you've got pictures of empty shelves in the shops, and they go, and this is what it'd be like under Jeremy Corbyn. It's like, that's literally under Boris Johnson right now. So even when you're faced with that, like faced with something so obvious, the propaganda has worked so much that people are, to quote Orwell, closing their eyes and not listening to their ears or whatever. I mean, that was a butchering of the quote.
Yeah, no, I think that's what he said.
Verbatim, by the way. And he even goes, at the end. And it's really, really powerful. So when we're here saying, no, this is what capitalism is, this is what's happening, I was naive to think that's enough. But actually, you then get people say, yeah, you're absolutely right. There is a huge financial elite. The billionaires are controlling everything, and that's why wokeism needs to be destroyed.
Yeah, you get like this last-minute turn-off of just like, yeah, the elite are working against us. People want to keep us poor. They're all corrupt. They're all hoarding all the wealth, and that's why I blame the refugees.
That's the thing. What? It's like it's that like sudden right turn that these people take, and it's what makes me laugh about right-wing politics is that so often they'll fasten on a nub of truth, like a central shell of yes, you've got it right, that's correct. And my favorite example is with the fucking World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum is where billionaires send their like do-gooders to lobby governments for tax cuts in a roundabout way. And every single there you go. Oh my god, every single time it happens, you'll talk to them and they'll be like, "Oh, I hate the WEF," and I'm like, "Yeah, exactly. It's disgusting, isn't it?" And they're like, "Yeah, they're trying to force pronouns on us and put us in 12-minute cities so they can transgenderize our dogs." And I'm like, "What?
Where did we go?
That sounds very outrageous.
Don't buy into it, Curtis.
Sorry, it's propaganda.
Curtis is already like, what?
It's like, but it actually happened. Like when Rachel Reeves went to the World Economic Forum, I've talked about this several times. She was met by people who worked on behalf of billionaires, and they were like, "We've noticed that you Labour's talked a lot about investing this 27 billion of capital in green issues and like green tech. Don't do that because you'll be taxing people and they'll be pissed off. Why don't you take the money from venture capital and take it from people that will give it to you instead?" And it's like, taking money from the people that burn the world to make profit so that you can put the world out is the stupidest thing. It's like, let me just make you double the money so that we can fix the problem that you're causing. Like, and this is why when I see people like Rachel Reeves fall for this kind of thing, and I see people not call her out on it, I'm like, you are compounding the problem. It doesn't make sense. And then you've got to compete with all of the people that are like, oh, the World Economic Forum, they want to trap us all at home and take away our cars.
We get comments though on this channel because it's mostly the right, but there are some people on the left who talk about WEF, and I really want to address this. WEF is not a conspiracy, right? It is the most open thing. It's literally just a group of capitalists, circle jerking over how good they are, and like, there's so many problems in the world. Let's leave it to the market, or let's come up with ideas. Obviously, they'll never come up with these solutions because capitalism is the problem. But that's all it is. It's just a bunch of rich people getting together and patting themselves on the back. That's it.
It's like
constantly I get WEF, and they think, and then the right say WEF is like this communist thing where they just try and impose 15-minute cities on stuff, and it's like, right, it's a lot to unpack here, but I mean, that happens when people don't really have a material understanding of the system. Then they'll say it's communism and it's 15-minute cities and it's wokeism. But it's really not a conspiracy. It is simply just as an open forum about capitalists literally saying we're great and we can make the world better. That is it. That's it.
It's like when people talk about that's what WEF would want you to say. It's like it's like
true. Yes, that is true. Maybe that's exactly what WEF told me to say that.
It is,
and they said as well. They said make sure you say circle jerk specifically for to make
it a circle jerk. Yeah,
make it seem realistic.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, because you're always talking about those. But it is like it's like with the media. People are like, oh, everybody, guess who owns? Some people own the media. They must all own the media. There's a little group of people who own the media. And it's like 90% of the print media in the UK is owned by 3 companies that are run by 3 guys. That's not a secret. That's just what it is. Like, that information is there. It's 3 dudes own 90% of our print media circulation.
But you know who don't believe
you don't have to work that hard. You don't have to make it anti-Semitic. You don't have to go into this wild little. I think, Dave, you said it the other day. Like, people are like chasing shadows. You don't have to chase the shadows. The people are right there.
Yeah, like, why are you looking for like these like deep conspiracy theories? Oh, it's this secret gathering of people that, like, we don't even know their names. No, it's actually probably the people that are over there, like Rupert Murdoch, who are like, oh yeah, no, I wanted the UK to leave the EU because when I go to
the guy who's going, I did it. It was me.
Yeah,
I did it on purpose.
He was like, I like to go to Downing Street because they do what I say, but when I go to the EU, they say no. That's why the print media that he owned was pushing for Brexit. It's not because like, he wanted to like come and get you in your house and trap you, and like he literally was like, yeah, I just don't like that they don't do what I want.
But I think that is because there is a lack of material understanding and there's a lack of class consciousness in this country. It's like people feel something. People feel like things aren't right. People feel like things are unequal, and then they latch onto these things because they're not understanding the material underlying of it, which is it's simply capitalism. It's a bunch of people in a position of privilege and power, and they're just using things to give themselves more power and wealth. That's it. It's actually very, very simple. But when people don't understand that, they kind of know there's people in power, but because they don't really understand the system itself, then they'll say, well, I mean, a lot of it's anti-Semitic, but they go into conspiracy from it. And it always has to be as well, like some sort of deliberate thing. Like it's not, I mean, when we talk about media and media bias, the right often think that the media, like people within the media sort of sit around in the table and go, oh, how do we screw people over? Ha. That's not how it works, right? People in the media think they're doing a good job. But they're in that position because of their views. It's not a conspiracy that they're deliberately doing these sort of certain things. It's just that they are a useful tool for capital. There's not really a conspiracy here. It's quite obvious. It's quite open. But people want to find a conspiracy when it's not there. It's overthinking, I guess. Yeah.
It's like when you had like the anti-vaxxer stuff. It's like there are well-documented historical cases of the pharmaceutical industry in the US massively exploiting people and hurting people and doing a lot of damage. why now? Like, there's so many situations where it's very, very, like, you don't have to do all this work. Like, it's just happening and it's right there. And people are like, no, there's got to be more to it. There's got to be more to it that's probably a bit more racist, surely.
When we had all of the like anti-vaxxer stuff, I was like, listen, I understand questioning things, but your logic doesn't make sense because you're like, oh no, they're making these vaccines and they're really deadly and dangerous. And I'm like, I've heard the best way to make loads of money is to kill scores of people that need the product. Yeah. And then like I've had discussion.
Autistic.
Yeah, and I had a discussion recently with that taxi. Like literally, I was coming back from the hospital after an appointment to be diagnosed with a chronic illness, which is, in my opinion, is as a result of my COVID infection, my one from November 22, right? And this guy was like, "Oh no, you don't understand. They've got like in like a vault somewhere, like they've got the cure for cancer, but they make you have chemo instead because that makes more money." And I'm like, so cancer is a thing that happens as a result of your own DNA misfolding, and a gene goes funny. It doesn't go through apoptosis. The cell doesn't die, so people get cancer. Okay, and if you came up with a cure for cancer, you could charge a fucking fortune for it. Because guess what? Guess who's going to need it? Every single person with cancer. But also, cancer is not one thing. Cancer is not one unifying thing. We've already cured some cancers. Like, it's this thing of like, I understand that we all have our areas of ignorance. There's things I don't understand. I make jokes regularly about how shit I am at maths, and I'm embarrassingly bad at maths. Like I'm literally like
maybe there's a conspiracy behind it.
I'm like an 8-year-old level of maths. It's terrible. But when it comes to stuff like that, when you actually have conversations with people that believe this stuff, you're like, what thread do I even start to unpick? You know, when I was talking to that taxi driver and he was an anti-vaxxer, I was like, do I explain how mRNA vaccines work and they break down almost immediately once they've delivered the information to your immune system? Or do I start talking about, you know, like the like how long vaccinations have existed? You just end up being like, I literally don't know how to even begin to like try to fix you, nor do I think it's my job. And I just ended up sitting there in this taxi, just being like, I think I said, and this probably makes me sound like an arsehole, but okay, I think I said, with all due respect, I don't feel that you are intelligent enough for me to have this conversation. And then I was like, can you just drop me off here? Because I don't want you to know where I live. Because if you believe that the vaccines are like purposely damaging our immune systems, I don't want you to know where I live because I'm afraid that you're a psycho.
And I think the fact there isn't a cure for cancer, to me, is a result of capitalism. But it's not. They're hiding it, and they want you to spend more money on treatment rather than the cure. It's more to do with the fact that like incentives. Right? I think certain things will get funding over other things as well. Like it might be an effect of capitalism, but it's not a conspiracy that's stopping people from getting it. To touch upon what you said earlier, I think you said you know, when it comes to COVID, the conspiracy there, a lot of people wouldn't even say, oh, to make money. They'll just say to control you. Because some people who buy into this conspiracy are even more vague in the outcome, right? A lot of people used to say, oh, it's to make money. This is conspiracy to make money. People don't even say that anymore. They just say control. And it reminds me of like the flat earthers. Oh, the earth is flat because they want to control you. First of all, how does the earth being flat mean they control you and who's they? And secondly, making people ill through COVID, like what's the incentive here? Like, I think for me, I have a test when it comes to conspiracy, whether you should give it any sort of credence or not is, you know, what would be the incentive? So if the earth...
Who benefits?
Who benefits? Who benefits from the earth being flat? Apart from saying, oh, it's about control. That's not good enough. You need to tell me, like, is there anyone who financially benefits from this?
Plane people, plane pilots, plane companies.
Plane companies.
Plane people.
Plane
what
people.
Are they called?
Plane people.
Airplane driver.
Is it like people...
It's the airplane drivers. I'm too tired. My brain didn't work.
I think my favorite thing about the control thing is that they will genuinely, with their full chest, sit and be like, I think that they're doing this so they can track us. And I'm like,
Yeah, and it's like,
hello.
oh, hello, metadata on my phone that's tracked by all
This
corporations using social media.
this thing here literally tells you exactly where I am 24/7, and this thing tells me how many calories I fucking burnt off. Like they don't need to inject me. I'm literally like, give me more things that tell me what I'm doing with my life because I don't fucking know.
Yeah. Simon said in the chat, skeptical of international pharmaceutical company. All companies are nefarious. Like every company is out to sell things to you and to make you feel like you have to have these things that they have, and they will put your health at risk in order to get it. My specific harmless conspiracy theory is that I think they could have found a way to make like women's tights not snag and ladder. Like
Who
by
benefits,
now, who benefits? The tights companies. They're making the tights. They have to keep selling the tights. And
It's a
if
conspiracy by Big Tights.
yeah, Big Tight. If they
Big
sold,
Tights.
who was it? Lewis was talking about the other day. Big Nut. When there was the article about peanuts found not to cause allergies on planes, and Lewis was like, "Bet Big Nut wrote this." There was they have to like Bic pens as well. Pens go missing all the time. Neither of those two things, if they actually made their product properly, the entire thing would go to shit. I've gone off the rails here for the last 2 minutes.
To be fair, my conspiracy is big meat packaging. You know, when you
big
meat. You buy some big meat. You buy some
Big
chicken,
Nut and Big Meat,
or if you buy some stuff to go on like your bagels, whatever, and you know, like the plastic, and it says, "Oh, rip off this corner," and you pull it, but it doesn't.
Oh my god, yes!
Right, that has
Who
been
benefits?
a problem for decades. There is a conspiracy. There's a cabal of people who are sitting in a room saying, "How can we make people's lives miserable?" But not by like being really, really.
Oh, the benefit is just
slightly being nasty to them. So
just cackling.
Sorry.
Just cackling in alone. They're just doing it themselves.
And
I don't think it's got
these
legs.
people for laughing. They enjoy it. They enjoy
I don't think it's as plausible as my tights thing. There's another one. Hair conditioner. Hair conditioner in the UK. Nowhere else. Tell me why nowhere else in Europe sells hair conditioner in the shops. It's like super expensive and it's super niche. If nobody else in Europe is using it, why do we need it? Why do we need it? They're not using it elsewhere because they're using shampoo here that strips your hair to the point that you need conditioner, and that's why they're selling it here. Because nowhere else in the rest of Europe and also in the rest of the world, you can't find conditioner when you go to the shop. I think we're being held in some sort of like hair conditioner limbo here. And I think, who benefits from that? Big L'Oreal, big hair.
Big hair.
Big hair. I mean, like, I'll be the physical.
Or maybe because actually Vicky said maybe it's just because the UK has very hard water.
Yeah.
I think it's
big. Yeah, I think it's big L'Oreal. Like, we like debate on turn left.
Yes, everywhere has got conditioner, but if you go to a big supermarket in Romania or in France or in Prague, you are not going to find that hair conditioner. You're going to have to go to a specialist pharmacy, and it's going to be super expensive.
I loved that. Okay. Right? Sorry, well, I'm just all I can think is like all I can think is someone benefits from conditioner. I'm just saying.
I do. My hair's dry as fuck.
I mean, incels would probably benefit from a little bit of condition as well, but you know.
They could benefit from showering and generally going outside and talking to other human beings. But
yes, that too. Here's an interesting fact that engagement.
We'll be the judge of that.
Well, I think it is very interesting. Engagement rings, right? People think that getting engaged is like this part of this tradition of marriage that's, you know, happened for millennia. In fact, it's a very new invention, probably in the last 100 years, because businesses want to try and make more of a profit off weddings, and they thought one good way is jewelry. So they essentially, it's kind of like the Santa effect, how the original design of Santa is green, then Coca-Cola promoted Santa to be red to promote the brand. Well, companies came up with this idea of an engagement ring before you get married so they could sell more rings. So engagement isn't actually a tradition of marriage. It is a very recent invention of capitalism.
Engagement rings have been common in Western countries since at least the time of the Roman Empire.
Engagement rings are coming. Engagement rings are coming.
Although the ancient Egyptians are. I just googled engagement ring origin, and it just said Roman Empire. Egyptians are credited with the invention of engagement rings.
A recent dinosaur skull was unearthed and it had an engagement ring on it.
A raptor was found with an engagement. It's in fact the oldest invention.
Why have you done this on the live?
Your fact debunked.
Wait.
Diamond ones, sorry, just coming back in again. Diamond ones have been featured since the Renaissance.
Oh.
Wait,
as in Beyonce's tour. Debunked your debunking.
Debunked again.
Okay, all right. I slightly got it wrong. It wasn't that they invented it. It's that they pushed. Turn left is a home of misinformation.
Leftist misinformation again.
They didn't invent it, but they pushed it hard for so between Strike Magazine's Love and Capitalism. There's a huge spike in sales and engagement rings because it was pushed as something important.
This is a bunch of bullshit. In 1938, the Diamond Cartel de Beers began a marketing campaign that would have a major impact on engagement rings. At the same time, they were out of style. People didn't want them in the younger generation. Only 10% of engagement rings contained a diamond. And then they did the 1947 slogan, "Diamond is forever." So there was a big push after the Depression to sell diamonds with diamond engagement rings.
So I'm basically correct, aren't I?
You know.
I think people in the chat probably would say I'm basically correct.
I don't.
If you do something very uncustomary to this channel and you're very liberal with the information, then yes.
Becca said, "Made you look a right numpty."
And it's been so nice to see you on here up till now, Sneaker. We'll see you on another platform soon.
Wait, one Curtis is correct. 2 debunked baby. What does that mean?
1 Curtis is correct. 2 debunked baby. Unclear. Vicky,
you're on my side, right? Just be on my side. No, no, I would not.
Admit you were wrong, mate.
This this is big Roman.
I'm just saying I talk a lot about media literacy on my platform, so I just have to be very careful with this kind of misinformation.
I think Vicky is doing a poll in chat where she's saying 1 for Curtis is correct and 2 debunked, baby.
Oh, need to type your opinion, lol. Curtis.
Oh my god. Come on. All right, Elon.
Elon straight away.
Yeah, I'm exactly like Elon because
you've had this platform for 5 minutes
having
and now
49 views is like Twitter.
My own voting. Right.
We'll count as one.
With that said, we are up to 9:35. I don't know if is there anything else to add from anyone?
Well,
any more lies you'd like to spread?
We went from Elon Musk to
Curtis probably needs to make a public statement and correction. No, I think you're right. Yeah, Curtis was right about De Beers. Katie, I said that bit. He didn't even remember what it was. You've misattributed that to him. Fine.
So yeah, I like this one, and we've decided we'll go with that one. I want to say about Elon Musk because
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got onto this. Why are we talking about me? It's not about me. It's about Elon Musk. So he
misinformation.
He's on Twitter. He's bolstered like literal Nazi accounts, right? But he also spread one of like the oldest anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. So in November 2023, someone tweeted, Jewish communities have been pushing this exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shits now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing ... Okay. And underneath he goes, you have said the actual truth. Now, one of the oldest anti-Semitic conspiracy theories is that Jewish people are trying to bring multiculturalism and higher amounts of immigration into the West. Is the oldest like Nazi dog whistle, and that's Elon Musk literally saying you are correct. Mm-hmm. I stand by this that Elon Musk is a literal Nazi. And it's not just that example,
yeah.
by the way. It's multiple times where he's gone underneath and said, "Yeah, you're correct," and you've literally got the biggest Nazi accounts being bolstered. He's a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he's not a Nazi, he's just helping them, which is it's the same, potato.
Yeah. Patati. It is like, yeah, I mean, I went, like I said, I don't go on Twitter very often anymore because it makes me feel sick, but going on to your thing yesterday, Curtis, it was like old,
that was fun, wasn't
like
it?
crusade style racists still over there. Like, it's bafflingly racist, the amount of stuff that he's incurring. And then it's this whole like free speech thing, but at the same time trying to sue people who don't want to advertise with him.
Well, I mean, you can't say cisgender on Twitter anymore.
Can you not?
No.
But your comment gets hidden, right? Because it breaks their terms of service. But you can get people commenting on my Twitter account and say, "I'm dyeing my hair blonde to try and assimilate with white culture," or I'm trying to fool people
asking about phenotypes.
Yes.
Phenotype. Don't even know how to say it 'cause I'm not a massive weird
Phenotypes.
dork, but people were talking about it. Like, what's your phenotype? I don't.
That's a
fucking
very
know,
strange
you
question.
absolute
People don't
maniac.
normally ask that, but that's Musk's Twitter. Yeah, there was a bunch of crazy shit that Sneaker, you jumped in and let me at him.
That world's crap.
But yeah, it's the most obscene racism. It's not even dog whistles on anymore. It's obscene racism on the platform. I remember just a couple of years ago, like someone could say something racist, then they would get ratioed, and someone else would be like, "Yeah, that's racist," and then they get banned. Now, I called out something that was racist. I got ratioed.
Yeah, people will also like add community notes to be like, actually, you're not a real person. Like, people fire out the weirdest, like the community notes are baffling. That people put on like, actually, just a fact check, you did deserve to receive racism.
Yeah,
that's
I've got
that's a fact. Can't dispute the facts.
When it gets to that, though, that's the point. That's why I deleted my Twitter. You said before we started, have you got a Twitter? And no, why would I? Why would I want to be on there? I don't want to spend my time listening to fucking Nazis talking about Nazi shit. It's bullshit. Like, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say kill all Nazis, but that's because I feel like that would probably put a target on my back. But kill all Nazis. I don't care.
Could kill them.
If you're a Nazi, then die.
Someone commented on, I made a video about these guys looking like yogurt in a plastic bag.
Love that one.
When they put their profile pictures on. Like, they always, it's so transparent, the same way guys that'll be like, oh, well, what happened to real men? Men shouldn't wear dresses. It's basically, they're trying to like thin down the options for men by being like, no, all men other than weird old sweaty guys like me are unattractive and shouldn't be considered attractive.
In the comments, the last time when I came on to Turn Left last time, like I was like lurking around the comments to see what people were saying, and there was that guy that was like, "Don't need to take anything that man says seriously because he has pronouns," and I'm like, "You have do you understand what a pronoun is?"
Oh,
like
is it that one with the cat picture?
Yeah, and he was still. He just kept asking. Yeah,
we
but
know
why?
Who you're talking about.
Why do you need to have pronouns? And you think, because I fucking want to. Like, what's your beef? Who cares?
That's so bizarre.
Why does it matter?
That's Graham Linehan's favorite response to anything. It's pronouns in tweet or pronouns in bio, disregard.
But it's
and then you go into his bio and it's got pronouns in there.
Yeah, and also your wife left you.
I tell you this though as well. Like,
divorce.
You can look at this, right? Okay, I know I've got a beard now. When I was younger and I had hair like this, I got misgendered all the fucking time. All the fucking time. I was once walking down the street in my old hometown, and a guy walked past me and was like, "Oh, sorry, mate, Fit Bird just walked past." And I turned around and was like, "Fucking excuse me."
Actually, so were you not like?
No, because I was like, "Woman," and he absolutely shit himself. And for me, it's just like I'm just clarifying that that's what my gender is. Like, and there's this there's the whole discussion about like sex and gender being separate things. It's like it just makes me feel more comfortable to be like, "Hey, trans people," I tried to do it on here and it wouldn't let me do it for some reason. I always do it just as a customary thing to be like, "Hi, I'm not a freak that hates trans people for no reason." It's
transphobia.
I can assure you, it's not. We've had many conversations. Don't you be spreading the
Don't,
since he gained control of this platform, he's gone a little bit off the rails. That's all I'm saying. We used to be able to have them. What happened?
I don't know.
But it's the thing that the comment that was really good on that video, and it's something that I always try and keep in mind when it's my own content. But when I see people being shitty to my pals, like my pal Curtis, who I appreciate even despite his misinformation campaigns, it is like all of that bullshit on the internet where people are like, what about pronouns? How can you define a woman? What do you think of this and this? Like, it's literally just a distraction tactic because we on the left are so tired of firefighting all the time. We're literally trying to make the argument that people should be allowed to like live if they cross the channel. We don't. So firing off this constant stream of bullshit from these little accounts and these mini Elon Musk bots of the world, like the whole purpose is to keep us busy. So we don't focus on the real stuff. So like as much as I will always come and scrap on everybody else, what I'm trying to do for myself now is just block, delete, actually deplatform it instead of
that was how we handled it, wasn't it? That was how we handled that guy. We were saying, why do you care more about my irrelevant pronouns than the fact that I was talking about illegal arms sales to Israel? Why do you? How is that a thing that you've gone? Well, I mean, it's bad that our government's spending money sending arms to kill thousands and thousands of people every week, but that man is a he/him. Like, what is wrong with you?
It's incredibly aggravating. It's incredibly aggravating. Give it up Twitter. Yeah, the referendum was enough during the Brexit days. But like now it is literally just people shouting like Heil kind of vibes. Like it's unbelievable. There were memes in there that look like they've been made in Microsoft Paint. Like it is bafflingly old school racism that's come back on there. And I don't even know how much of them are real people. It feels like the Clone Wars. It feels like you're fighting another side and you don't even know what's real.
Yeah, and I think if you're, I suppose, responding, you could be responding to a literal racist bot, not even a real person. But yeah, it's gone insane. I understand why people leave Twitter. I mean, one day I'll do it, but I haven't done it yet.
Because you like scrapping as well.
I love scrapping. I do love scrapping, but I scrap against Nazis.
Yeah, you are scrapping against the Nazi bots. But yeah, I think I'll stay in my echo chamber for a little while again. No.
Yeah, that's enough, isn't it?
Back out. Right, listen, we're at 9:44, gang. I don't know about you guys, but we gotta go to bed.
I've not ate yet.
I've not eaten either, and I need to get my dog out for a walk because she's refused to go outside due to the fireworks. I don't think she's pissed in the house.
Well, that's good.
Oh, she's asleep. She's okay. She's asleep now. But yeah, thank you to everybody who's joined us tonight. It's been really interesting seeing what's going on in the chat. I appreciate all of you for sharing your thoughts, sharing your opinions, not Curtis, misinformation. I do appreciate Curtis and Davey joining us. If there is anything that you want to talk about or hear more about, we will be back tomorrow with the debrief, which is being hosted by me. And I believe we are being joined by Zoe Jardinia. So we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different parts, but especially talking about some of the recent stuff around migrants crossing the channel, the rhetoric around that. That is a really big area for Zoe. So that'll be tomorrow at either 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Curtis, help me. 7:30 or 8 o'clock? They'll be at 7:30 tomorrow, and we'll be ready for it as we always are. If you want to support us, you can head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. If not, you can share all of our content. Follow us over on socials, Twitter, X, TikTok, everything else. Thank you very much, Curtis. Thank you very much, Davey. Appreciate you both. We'll see you guys again soon.